Happy Friday. You haven't had a message from me the past couple of weeks because both the previous Fridays I've just been busy doing other things that had my full attention, and I didn't want to stop what I was doing to come share a message. And I wanted to name that and share that with you to remind you that there are things on your to do list that it would also be okay for you to just not do. And even if, uh, you know, 150 people are expecting an email from you with a message, and I knew everyone would be okay. You don't rely on messages from me to make it through the weekend and those kinds of things. And so that it was okay to let that go. So I hope that will encourage you to think of what can you let go of, especially if you're doing something you're enjoying, that you're absorbed by, right? Like that's the energy we need to nourish in ourselves. So to bring as much of that into our lives as we can, and to let that hang on to that feeling while it's there. So the thing that's giving me hope right now, I want to, as I've shared with some of you, as I've run into you at meetings and gatherings this week online, I was at an in-person conference last week held here in San Diego. It was for UU ministers across the country. We come together every few years for a continuing education conference, and it was it's been planned to be held in San Diego for years, so it was just lucky it was our turn to be here. And I did go and stay at the hotel, and I was there in person. And about 1/3 of the conference attendees were in person, and 2/3 were online. And for me, it was a real vision of how things could be. So it certainly wasn't like going backwards or before the pandemic, but it was. The conference was in person and online. All of our meals were outside, and you had to be fully vaccinated to attend. They encouraged us to bring rapid tests with us in case we felt sick during the conference. There was a whole safety protocol and a safety coordinator you could talk to if you had concerns. Everybody wore their masks and the right kind of mask. No one was walking around with their mask below their nose, and people, when we were in a shared space, the rooms were when we were indoors, it was a really big room, and people would take their mask off for a moment to take a sip of coffee. I did that too. But everyone was being so careful and thoughtful that, I don't think any of us just felt any agitation or, or, or or anxiety about being together. So it was so great to be in a place that was multi-platform and as safe as it could be for those of us in person. I thought it would be even riskier. I didn't know that the meals were outdoors when I planned on attending. So I had planned for the week before and the week after to lay low, not have a lot of interactions with other people. So I wouldn't be exposed beforehand, and that I would take time afterwards to see how I was feeling. So that's also a part of looking into the future, that we begin to plan for activities that are maybe a little higher risk than normal. So, and then of course, it was so wonderful to be in person with other people. Even just being in a room with other people, even if I wasn't talking to anyone, it was, I felt like a dried up sponge that was absorbing liquid. It just felt so good. So I know you know that, and many of us who have been very careful miss that kind of contact. So, and another piece of what's making me hopeful right now is that the case rates for coronavirus in San Diego County came down really like 100 points or whatever you would call it since last week. So that's a great drop. Shows where Omicron surge is coming to an end, and fingers crossed that we could see another nice big dip like that to next week. So really feels like we're setting aside, done with this part of the pandemic, and who knows what will come next, right? But anyway, it's good to be coming into some safer times. So, two quick reminders. One, just to remind you that the sermon for this coming Sunday will not be available in the recording afterwards. It's up to our preachers to give permission for that. Sermons are copyrighted automatically by the preacher, and so we don't have authorization to share the recording afterwards. So it should be a great sermon, and you'll want to be there. So make a little time on Sunday morning. And also, you've been getting lots of notices about the auction still coming up in a few weeks. And if you're like me, you have not turned in your auction offerings. And I'm still enjoying thinking about it, and I want to encourage us to start to do the work of getting those turned in. It's a little bit stressful on our auction planners who are hoping that they're working hard on putting together a great fundraiser for our community. And, when the deadline is, like I said, I know I'm not the only one who tends to wait till right up on the deadline, but the more earlier we can get those turned in, the more that our planners can start to breathe easy and know that they've been planning a great event for us. And I know we all are looking forward to bidding on things, but of course, to bid on things, we have to have things turned in. So, maybe time to set aside a half an hour to give that some full attention and look at a calendar and get online and get those offerings submitted. I hope you're doing okay. Hugs to everybody. I feel like when I'm running into people this week, I say it like it's happening in person. It's all online. But I hear how hard it is. The days are getting longer. We live in a beautiful place. If you have a chance to get outside, do that. If you have a chance to get outside with a friend, I had lunch at a park this week with a good friend, and that's another way for us to be safe and yet be able to be in person together. So blessings and love to each of you.